You're leading your horse to the cross ties. I want you to just abruptly stop and see what happens. Oh, that was good. But a lot of times what happens is that you're walking along and you stop and your horse just keeps like going past you and turns in front of you like this. All right, hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 simple tests that you can do to test your horse's ground manners. And be sure to download the PDF, which I've linked below this video, so that you can fill it out and score your horse as you go through these 5 tests. Ground manners are absolutely important, not only for safety, so that you don't end up in the hospital, but also because the way that you interact with your horse on the ground really sets the stage for how responsive your horse is under saddle. So let's get started. This is Luigi. Luigi perhaps does not have the best ground manners. He's not the worst horse, but he's definitely not the best horse. I would say he's in the middle. So we're going to do these 5 tests with Luigi and see how he does. For each test, you're going to score your horse either a 1, a 2, or a 3. Very simple. 1 is bad, 2 is like decent, okay, and 3 is good. So the first test that you're going to do next time when you go and you halter your horse in the stall is that you're just going to simply ask your horse to lower their head. So sometimes horses, like when you go to put the halter on, they put their head straight up in the air and you're having to like reach up here to get them to lower their head. So once you get the halter on, what you're going to do is you're going to put one hand on the front of the noseband, your other hand on the top of their poll, and you're just going to apply a little bit of light pressure downward and see if you can get them to drop their head. So I would say I'm going to apply like maybe a pound of pressure on his noseband and his poll and see if I can get him to drop his head. So here he's not really responding. I'm going to put a little bit more pressure. There he responded and lowered his head. So what you want is that when you put pressure on your horse's poll and the noseband, they should lower their head. So pressure, if they don't lower their head, sometimes you can go a little side to side like this and release. Pressure and release. Good boy. Okay, so I'm going to give Luigi a score of a 2 for that because he did put his head down, but the response wasn't immediate. And he also was like, you saw him try to put the lead rope in his mouth. So I would say it's like, okay, it's not the best response ever. It's not the worst response ever. So that's test number 1. Does your horse put their head down? This is important for submission and also for riding, because when we're riding, we want to be able to get them to lower their head so that they go on the bit, and also for like a free walk or a stretch circle. Okay, test number 2 is leading your horse. So you're walking along. You're leading your horse to the cross ties. I want you to just abruptly stop and see what happens. Oh, that was good. I was expecting him to just keep walking past me. So let me see if I can do it again, because usually he just walks right on top of me. So that response, I would say that was really good. I would give that like a 1, I would give that a 3, because right when I stopped, he stopped immediately. But a lot of times what happens is that you're walking along and you stop and your horse just keeps like going past you and turns in front of you like this. Or they just like lean into you, drag over the top of you. So that's a bad response. I would give that a 1, because you saw how I stopped and he just like kept walking past me. The reason that it's really important when you stop, that your horse stops, is 1, for safety, because you don't want to get stepped on or knocked down. And honestly, that causes a lot of injuries, is people getting stepped on, people getting knocked down. So start practicing this, whenever you're leading your horse. Stop. Your horse should stop. If they don't, raise your hand up and give them a little bump and say, hey, get back. It's really important that like whenever you stop, your horse should stop and stay behind you and stay out of your space. Horses are not lap dogs. You do not want them in your space. Okay, so that's step number 2. Like I said, if your horse failed that test, you really need to practice halting your horse. Now, test number 3 is, can you get your horse out of your space? Again, this is really important because horses are big. they weigh a lot, and if they're constantly coming into your space, it can be really dangerous. They can hurt you. So what you're going to do is you're going to just start out standing beside your horse, and you're going to make yourself big and send the energy towards your horse. So I'm going to kind of put my hands up and shake him at him, and I want to see if I can get him to move out of my space. Good boy. So you can start by just like raising your hands up. You can send a little energy down your lead rope. You also notice how I have a rope halter on. I really like doing groundwork with the rope halter because my horse is a little bit more responsive to it. There. So that's the third test, I guess, is can you get your horse out of your space? If you can't get your horse to move away from you, then you failed the test and you give yourself a score of a 1 because that's bad. If it takes some doing, like I would give Luigi a score of 2 for can I get him out of my space? Because a couple things is, you notice how when I'm talking, he always is like coming into my space bubble, which I don't like. And also to get him out of my space, like I have to do quite a bit to get him to move away from me. So I would give Luigi a score of 2 for can I get him out of my space? So the last 2 tests you are going to do either in the cross ties or if your horse is tied up. You can do it either way. If you use cross ties to tack up your horse, that's fine. Or if you tie them up, you can do these last 2 tests in the cross ties. So the 4th test to test your horse's ground manners, and this is something that's really important that I do with my horses every day when I'm getting them ready, is when you're grooming your horse, whether they're in the cross ties or they're tied up, you need to get them to move over depending on whether you're on the left side or the right side. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go down the side of your horse like this, and then make sure, oh, he's already doing it. You win, Luigi, you get a 3. But make sure your horse is just looking a little bit towards you. And then you're just going to put a little pressure like where your leg would be and see if you can get them to move over from that pressure. And then just switch sides a few times. So now I'm going to go to the right side. I'm going to tip his head a little towards me on the right. I'm going to give him just a little bump right where my leg would be. And you see how he moves over. I'm going to go back to the left side. I'm going to tip his head a little towards me. And you see how he shifts away from me. So that's just really a thing of respect, is that when you switch sides, your horse should move over to allow you onto that side. If your horse is like squashing you up against the wall, or they don't move over when you step down the side of them, then that's a sign that they're not responsive enough to you. And this is also not only important for the ground, but also for when you're riding your horse and you put your leg on, you want your horse to move a little bit over to the side. So again, give this a try with your horse. Give yourself a score. Either 1 is like really bad, 2 is good, 2 is like mediocre, your horse moves over to a relative aid, and 3 is good. So I would give Luigi a score of 3 because you see how it's like when I just kind of step down here and I give him a little light tap where my leg would be, now he's not moving over. So that wasn't the best response. But basically I just want that when I step down the side of my horse and I ask them to move over, that they move away from me. And then the final test is, does your horse pick up their feet for you? So once again, this is just a simple test of ground manners. Is your horse paying attention to you? And are they giving to pressure? Because that's really like what all of training is about, is does your horse give to the pressure? So what you're going to do is you're just going to stand by your horse's shoulder, slide your hand down the back of their leg, give them a little bit of a pinch in front of their fetlock, and see that they give and pick up their foot and hold it nicely for you. One little tip is that if your horse doesn't want to pick up their feet, make sure that you kind of shift their weight onto the opposite foot. So if your horse has all their weight on this left front foot, it's going to be hard to get them to lift it. Like you can see now, he has a lot of weight on his left front foot. So I need to push him a little over to get him to take that weight on the right front foot, and then slide down here, give him a little pinch, and he should lift his foot. So that's really quite good for a response. I would give him a 3 for that. I feel like that was like a really reasonable response for picking up his foot. If you can't get your horse to pick up their foot at all, you're going to give your horse like a 1 because that's pretty bad. If it takes a lot of effort, like you're having to push and like pry on them to get them to pick up their foot, then you're at like a 2. So those are just 5 simple tests that I would really love for you to do the next time when you're grooming your horse to just get a read on how good their ground manners are. And be sure to download the PDF so that you can follow along, fill out the worksheet, score your horse in each of these areas. And then at the end of the worksheet, I give you kind of a guide based on how your horse scores on these ground manners. And once again, it's so important that your horse has good ground manners because you spend most of your time on the ground with your horse. And it's also where a lot of injuries happen, where I hear of a lot of people that have gotten kicked or stepped on. Let me know in the comments if you've ever gotten injured on the ground. It happens a lot. But just focusing on these little small things makes a huge difference, and it makes your horse so much more enjoyable just to be around and to spend time with. So print the worksheet, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this video.